everyone. My name is Joanne Shango. I am the head of school at the Montessori School Rochester here in Rochester Hills, Michigan. I'm here with you today to discuss some parenting support that will help you in your everyday life, and particularly now as we are living in a unique world where stay-at-home orders are in place and schools are closed. As parents, you have taken the full-time job of not only raising your most prized and precious possessions, if we want to call children that, but you are now also taking a full command of their learning. And this is true even for stay-at-home moms who are used to educating their children, but it's not the same for stay-at-home moms right now either. Those stay-at-home homes, I'm sorry, not stay-at-home moms, but homeschool moms, it's not the same. It is very different offering a homeschool program where you are out and about on field adventures with your students, with your children, bringing the information and the interests that they have alive through experience. So even for homeschool parents, as well as parents that are now experiencing a massive shift from their children being in some type of formal education, whether it's a childcare setting, preschools, kindergartens, elementaries, or adolescent programs inclusive of middle and high school, things are really different. We've talked in the past few sessions about creating boundaries in your home, offering respect to children, fostering independence, and all of these things are very connected in what's considered social and emotional learning. I've been in Montessori schools in some capacity for the past 28 years. I've been a trained Montessori guide for 25 of those years, and most recently for the past 5 years received my training in adolescent studies through high school. And the connective tissue between all of my life's experience in Montessori schools, as well as through the various trainings and conferences that I've attended, are all connected through what is a primary focus in Montessori education, which is social and emotional learning. Social and emotional learning is the primary focus for almost any Montessori program. I would say all authentic Montessori programs have a focus on social and emotional learning. What's really wonderful over the past few years, this social and emotional learning has become a focus in traditional and other alternative schools around the nation and the globe as well. There has become a unique understanding that the focus on the individual child and their social and emotional development is primary in the focus of an educator. If we focus on each individual child, we develop and foster a connection with each of those children that allows them to build bonds of trust with their guides or their teachers so that they can comfortably and on a daily basis move forward in the exploration and the acquisition of knowledge. As children explore new concepts, there really must be a strong interest in those concepts in order for them to dive more deeply. Surface knowledge, or the ability to memorize and regurgitate that information for a test, is not knowledge that will stay with you long term. There is a skill and an ability to do short-term memorization, but that's uniquely different than the student or child that dives deeper, engages more fully. And that only happens when the process of learning is about them. And that's where social and emotional learning comes from. That's what the basis is about, is creating that connection to the child from the adult through work, through the activities of learning. The focus for guides in traditional schools as well as Montessori schools around the world on making those daily connections before work begins while work is happening and after work has been completed or mastered does make the difference on lifelong learning for the child. It makes a difference on their confidence. It makes a difference on their social and their emotional well-being. And a healthy child is a child that has strong, healthy emotional capacities versus a child that is struggling or shut down or fearful or anxious or angry. A child that experiences those emotions but has a stronger foundation and understanding and the connection to themselves with their emotions and the trust of an emotional relationship with the adults in their care allows them to work through those emotions. It doesn't prevent negative emotions from occurring, but it allows a child a trust and a helping hand to honestly and authentically work through emotions in a productive manner that always has them moving forward, if nothing else, and in a connection to themselves in the way that they're going to grow or learn from all experiences, both those positive as well as those that feel negative. That's why we focus on them. While you're home right now during this crisis, so many of us are still at home. There are places around the world that are opening up. The stay-at-home orders are being lifted, but many of our programs, at least in this hemisphere, in the northern hemisphere, schools are reaching the end of their term and therefore are not reopening, even if those stay-at-home orders are lifted. We're here in Michigan. The stay-at-home order has actually been extended. While we're preparing for summer, we're also focusing very readily on the distance learning programs that we're offering for our students and how long those distance learning platforms will continue through the end of the school year, what shape they will need to take if this continues through the summer, what school or summer camps will look like as summer comes upon us. For us here at the Montessori School Rochester, we are looking at offering our summer camps. We are looking at welcoming our students back without fear and with confidence that we can indeed offer them a safe and healthy learning environment or exploration environment, particularly in summer camp, but also an environment where they feel secure, where they do not have to worry or experience undue anxieties, to actually be joyful and trusting, and to also feel uniquely and beautifully comfortable in sharing their emotions for what they've experienced the past few months with the guides or the camp instructors that they will be spending time with. And that's really important. As I've spoken with many parents, that has been the real focus. They're ready for their children to get back into school or into summer camps, but they want their children to feel safe and secure, not just for physical health, but to feel safe and secure, to have a comfort and an ability to still look their guides in the eye, look the trusting adults in the eye, and communicate with them and proceed in joy and in confidence and in trust in their explorations. That's what we're focusing on. But as parents, you're home right now. We're not quite sure how everything's going to unfold, and you are still taking that responsibility with partnership with your teachers or guides in your various schools on trying to maintain and help your children successfully complete this current school year. I would urge all of you to really focus on that social and emotional, to understand that as you set the parameters or the guidelines, to understand and respect and move forward with patience and with understanding that sometimes our children just aren't into it. There are times where they're not wanting to be engaged in school. There are times, particularly in this distance learning, there are times where they're not able to engage in school. There are times where their emotions are overwhelming them, and they may not be expressing them, but that's real. And it interprets itself in many different ways. And we want to make sure we look beyond the expectation of completing a project or the expectation we might have on a confined or short timeline that we think is appropriate. It might make sense for you or I to say, get all of your work done in the morning so that you have the rest of the day free. That might make sense for you. That might make sense for some of your children, but it may not make sense for all of your children. So to have the patience of working with them on creating a timeline that's supportive, to being flexible when a timeline that perhaps you've created and agreed upon together, whether it's your high school student or your elementary or kindergarten age student, that there are certain days where they're just not feeling it, just like there are certain days where you just may not be feeling it right now. Our emotions are very big, and it's really critical as everything has changed so drastically for our children as well as for us that we really understand and respect that. There are times where they just don't want to go to school today, and it is a different type of support we have to offer them than we might have if they woke up tired on a regular school day and said, can I skip school today? You might offer one of those in a school year. But right now, as we are focusing on their emotional well-being, as we're understanding that socially they're experiencing a distance that could be critically compromising their development, particularly as adolescents, they need socialization, and they don't have it right now. So those breaks that say, okay, go ahead and sleep in today and we'll get started a little bit later, still an understanding of their responsibility. So my son woke up in the middle of the night, and he hadn't in a couple of weeks, and so I thought things were going a lot better for him. He'd had a bit of an emotional outburst a couple of weeks ago, and through that we were able to heal a little between him and myself and his siblings, but mostly for himself. And the middle of the night wake ups with a tummy ache started to go away. And the other night, I think it was last night, 2 nights ago, he woke up in the middle of the night and he said, I have a tummy ache. And I feel like I'm going to throw up, but I can't actually throw up. And I was like, okay. So we bonded for a couple of minutes. He took a hug from me and then was able to return back to sleep. And I thought, oh, here we go again. Well, the following morning, when I went to wake him up, he said, Mom, can I please just sleep in? Just let me sleep in till 1, maybe 2. Just let me sleep. He's 12 and a half. And I looked at him and I thought, oh, I don't want him to fall back behind. He's been doing so well keeping up with his schoolwork. And then I took a deep breath. And I remembered this isn't about schoolwork. Anything he learns today, he can relearn another day. He will be able to catch up. He has that ability. He's a very smart, intelligent boy. He's got his siblings. He's got me. He's got his father to help him and keep him on task. This was about his emotional well-being. And so I said, yep, no problem. There was no conversation. I just agreed. And the lightness that entered his face was extraordinary. And he went back to sleep, and he got out of bed at about 12:05, and he said, I thought I was going to need to sleep till like 1 or 1:30 to feel better, Mom, but I feel better already. It was an extra couple of hours of sleep that really made a difference for him emotionally. Did he have a tummy ache? He did. His tummy was aching. Did he have a virus? Did he have a flu bug or something along those lines? Did he have a reaction to something he ate? I don't actually think so. I could be wrong. However, the emotional support and the emotional relief that was granted to him was enough to make him feel better and productive that day. And that's why it's so important. We need to have conversations with them that say, I respect you and I understand what it is you need right now. And then there are other conversations, deeper conversations, that usually don't unfold when they're in the midst of feeling big emotions. They're the conversations you have on a daily basis that says, I'm interested in you. I'd like to hear what you're doing. It's finding that time in classrooms around the world, particularly in elementary and middle schools, as teachers and guides are focusing on social and emotional learning. The conversations start every day that way. Before we move into any kind of academic work, there's a group meeting, and that group meeting is really about, how are you today? How was your weekend? How did you wake up this morning? Tell me something about yourself. Is there anything you'd like to share? These conversations are very important in creating community and creating healthy community members, and that's why there's so much focus on them. We can do the same thing while we're at home with our children. And again, it's very important. It's very hard for them to say, my son still can't say, my tummy hurts because of stress. My tummy hurts because I'm frustrated. He can't say that. He doesn't even know it. In fact, he gets frustrated when I'm trying to ask those questions. So I've learned to pull back from it. Instead, it's during the quiet times. I'm finished with my work. He's finished with his work, where we're just chatting, and I just converse with him. How's it feeling not seeing your friends? Yeah, I miss them too. What do you think is the first thing you're going to do when the stay-at-home orders are lifted? How are you going to X, Y, or Z? That's going to be very, very important in creating those conversations that provide security and an understanding to the child, to your son or your daughter, that they are respected for their feelings and that their feelings are valid. When adults believe that their feelings are valid, and then are given the tools to work with those feelings so that they don't have to extend into extreme emotional responses, they are better equipped to not only accept big feelings when they occur, but to heal themselves through them and to communicate about them. And that's what creates stronger children. And those are the children that become more academically successful. I'm not talking about intellectual capacity, but academic and explorative success. The most successful people are not always the people that have the highest IQs. They are the people that are strong. They are people that are confident in themselves. They are people that are emotionally secure. There are people that understand how to logically problem solve and create solutions, being creative in their explorations. Those are the most successful people. Those are the most successful leaders. Those are the most successful contributors to society. And that's what we're trying to do with our children. So every day, find that moment with your child, whether they are 2, whether they are 5, 7, 9, 15, 18, 21. Have those conversations that are casual and they're not steeped in emotion, and instead they're centered around emotional security. They will make a huge difference for your child in their development, in their willingness to take on and complete their responsibility. It will make your life and their life easier as you continue to create new and different, ever-changing boundaries as these stay-at-home orders continue, as schools remain closed, or life in new schools or in summer camps looks different and feels different. They're going to be stronger and more emotionally secure, and they're going to stay more connected with you, and you'll find that there's less resistance. There will be more communication. There will be conversations that say, I don't want to, or I don't like it, or can I wait? But that is different than resistance. Open communication is what solves conflict. Opposition is what promotes conflict. And we're not looking to offer opposition with our children. We're not looking to say, I understand you feel this way, but you have a responsibility. It can never be that cut and dried. I've offered you tools in the past that say first, then that, then first this, then this, those types of conversations. But those conversations work the best when your child is emotionally secure and has a trusting relationship with you. Otherwise, those conversations are simply manipulation. And savvy, intelligent children, particularly as they grow older, would understand that that's a manipulation instead of a successful tool for themselves as well as for others. And we want to make sure that those are successful tools in conversation that respect each child, who they are, what they're thinking, what their needs and wants are, while developing an understanding of their responsibilities, of their work, of responsibilities that are outside of their work, that are to their whole community or to their whole family, as you are all living at home together. I think that's all I have today. I really appreciate you sitting and talking with me. I would love to urge you. Oh, there is one more thing. I'm sorry, it took me a moment. I forgot what it was. We still have, and your children still have, as school progresses through the end of the school year or the end of the stay-at-home order, for those of you that are maybe in your first or second semesters of school and not approaching the end of the school year, there are still academic responsibilities. And I'm not saying to neglect those. If you receive anything from me today, is to understand that offering social and emotional learning first is what leads to better success on the academic learning. It's social, emotional, and academic. That's the focus. That is here at our school, at the Montessori School, Rochester. That's what we always focus on. We say it's social, emotional, and academic learning, and it is in that order. And it is in that order because when you focus on the social and emotional, the academics go much further than you would ever potentially expect them to. It is truly extraordinary, not because they're all have these high IQs. It's that when children feel comfortable and confident in themselves, in their emotions, in their relationships to others, they are more readily open and eager and able to explore new concepts, because that's always been their goal. There's just often detours and stop signs in front of the goal that sometimes they don't know how to manage. So become creative. Sometimes if they're not really ready or willing to do an activity that was simply assigned, become creative with them. Today I was working with a student and we were chatting, and the conversation was really just social and emotional today. I didn't have a math concept lined up that we were going to discuss. He was saying things were going great in the classroom. We were just having a one-on-one touch base. And as we were chatting and he was talking about emotions and how sometimes, he's feeling content and what it takes to move contentment to joy. And it was just a really open dialogue. I then connected this conversation to a writing experience for him. And I asked him very simply if he would be interested in writing a story about how a child, whether it's himself or somebody else or an animal, whatever character he wanted to create, is feeling content and moves into joy that not only affects him but affects everyone around him. We talked a little bit about using adjectives and verbs to make a more colorful story, to use adverbs. We described what an adverb was, which is essentially an adjective that is describing a verb instead of a noun. And he got really excited. He was like, oh, I really think I can do that. I'm like, okay, so think about what the title might be. Think about if that title is going to remain the same or if it becomes the theme and your title changes as your story evolves. And then think of your illustrations. How would you create this into an illustrated book? How would you break up your paragraphs, the couple of paragraphs you might write for your short story, into page by page, illustrated depiction of your story? And he was really engaged, and this became something he gets to do for the weekend while he's also celebrating his mom for Mother's Day. But it's something that he gets to do that now becomes a part of him while also working with his emotions. This becomes a lesson for him not only on feeling happy or joyful, but really focusing in how to create joy for himself and be able to make an impact with a story on other people. That's the guidance that I strongly recommend. This always comes, these conversations always come before the academic work. When you have and foster on a daily basis these comfortable relationships with your children, moving into math lessons, moving into these online tutorials or lessons that their teachers or guides are offering in various capacities through distance learning, they're more readily able to accept them and to eagerly look for them and still be excited by the content rather than being swamped by all of the other overwhelming feelings that they're having. That is all I have for today. I'm glad I remembered that small component, which is actually a pretty big one. There's responsibility, but that responsibility really only comes when your children feel socially and emotionally comfortable, confident, and able. I encourage you to practice this with your children, have open conversations, and remember, you're looking for collaboration. We're not looking for force. We don't want to increase conflict. We want to work through conflict with our children. Thank you all very much. I hope you enjoy this day. For us, it's a bit brisk, and there was actually flurries here in the early part of May in Michigan. However, it's going to be a great Mother's Day weekend. I'm focusing on the flowers that are coming up from the ground. I hope you do the same. Have a great weekend. If you are a mother, have a wonderful Mother's Day weekend. I hope you are celebrated. I hope you have time to relax, enjoy, and take some deep breaths that help to ease any stress you might be experiencing and feeling. We will see you all soon. We love you. We miss you. Have a great day.